Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the Commander Smiths here with searching for the spotlight. Let's see if we can get this to kind of work. Yeah, searching for the spotlight, Iroh Grand Lotus. Gonna be building this deck a bit here. We got about 20, 30 cuts left. Um and it is my first early morning one. The cats woke me up and they want to be fed, but that was 2 hours too early. So I don't want to do that. I don't want it to be a regular thing. So I'm gonna do this. And it's Iroh Grand Lotus. We got three colorless, green and a blue and a red for 5/5 firebending 2. So when it attacks, create 2 red mana. During your turn, each non-Lotus instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback, and flashback back costs equal to the card's mana cost. And then during your turn, each lesson card in your graveyard has flashback 1. So the lesson part is the cool part. I don't have all the cool lessons, unfortunately, at this point. Some of them, not a lot of singles in the stores right now. It's the day after Christmas. Let me change my lighting a little bit. That's very bright. Let's see if we get something that does there. All right, maybe that's better. That's very bright. Way too bright for early morning. That looks all right. So, yeah, getting that in. Basically, I think my thought is just jam a bunch of lesson cards, pay one, and then storm off. Get a couple of storm cards in there, things that like you casting a bunch of spells, and then we'll just kind of go over it and cut as we go, and show you some of the ideas that I'm working with right now, and then you'll see like a deck tech in a month or so, like when I feel like I really like the deck and have it flowing. So that's where we're at. First off, we're gonna go with the creatures and package there, and just so we know, here we go. Okay, maybe not the best representation of what the deck is doing, but it kind of is too. Zephyr Scribe. It's a 2/1, pay a blue, tap, draw a card, discard a card, and 3 to come out. But whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap Zephyr Scribe. And so you have this ability to potentially, like cast a lesson for 1, and then you're untapping the Zephyr Scribe and potentially using it for mana, potentially doing the draw discard. It's helping fill up your graveyard. That's kind of a little bit of the hope. It's doing a lot of work here. And I'm really excited to try this out. And then we have Zertaw Druid, tap to green, and then it does 1 damage to everybody, all your opponents. This was a Stump the Smith Savant card probably a few years ago at this point, but from Spooge Wizard. That's a weird S wizard. He knows not to put the spooge there. So yeah, dealing 1 damage to everybody also kind of matters. That's kind of part of what's going on. You got to win the game somehow, right? You have War the Raid Mother. When it comes into play, you get 2 red and green 1/1 Goblin Warriors, and then each red and or green instant or sorcery spell you cast has Conspire. And so when you recast a red and or green instant or sorcery, you tap a number of creatures and you get to copy the spell over and over and over. When I was doing this, it mattered more when you have copies. And honestly, I've probably taken out a lot of the Strixhaven mechanic. We'll get there. But, if it likes copies and triggers off of it and draws cards or treasures or whatever, and I think most of that is out at this point. But I like the idea of making copies. There it is, Magecraft. That's the name. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Viren of Duality gets +1/+1, and then also casting or copying an instant or sorcery doubles any triggers from casting instants and sorceries. And so Magecraft doubles, so you cast an instant or sorcery, there's a +1/+1, and then it also gets an additional +1/+1. Or if it's draw a card, you draw 2 cards, da 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 da. So not a bad deal there. We have Unruly Catapult. 0-4 Defender taps to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap Unruly Catapult. So you kind of just do it over and over and over again. And then also, as you can see in the future, it could be mana. That's a little bit of the goal. Unctus Grand Metatech. But whenever a blue creature becomes tapped, you get to draw a card and discard a card. Basically, like doubling the Zephyr Scribe ability or Merfolk Looter. Blue or artifact creatures get +1/+1. All that stuff doesn't really matter. It's here for the looting effect. Thunderclap Drake. It's in here for the instant and sorcery spell, costing one less to cast. Because basically, with Iroh Grand Lotus in play, your lessons are free when it comes to these kind of cards. The one is not bad, but it's an easy storm when you don't have to cast a bunch of spells from your graveyard for free. You know, bop, 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 bop. Thought Courier, tap to draw a card, discard a card. Thermo Alchemist, taps to 1 damage each opponent, and then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap it. So that's you could definitely see that kind of happening. We have Storm Catch Mentor. Haste, prowess. Prowess, your creature gets a lot of +1/+1 until end of turn with the when you start going off with the lessons, and then it creates free lessons essentially in the graveyard. We have Spider Manifestation, taps for red or a green, and then whenever you cast a spell of 4 or greater, untap this creature. So just a little bit of that ability to untap, along with just giving you some mana there. We have Seeker of Insight. Draw a card, then discard a card. Can only do that if you cast a non-creature spell this turn. You got a lot of non-creature spells in this deck, so it shouldn't be that bad. Seedborn Muse. Untap everything you got each turn. It's a little bit like all of these looting effects is there to kind of help mill and get stuff into your graveyard, and you're just starting to move through your deck. And Seedborn Muse is good for that. We have Null Mage Shepherd. Tap 4 untapped creatures you control, destroy target artifact or enchantment. You start controlling the board with a Seedborn Muse in play, or just, I think you have enough creatures in here to be able to do that, but we are going to be cutting a lot of stuff. Maybe it doesn't matter when you're storming off and just dealing damage, but it's going to get rid of anything that is going to prevent you from winning the game, essentially, except for maybe um it gets rid of that protection, platinum angels and artifact. Like you should be able to just kind of deal with just about all of your problems with that. Merfolk Looter for that draw discard. You have Baral, Chief of Compliance for that spell reduction. This is if I'm going to cut any of the -1 or the 1 reduction. It's going to be this card. Um, we have Kitsa Otter Ball Elite, have the draw discard, vigilance, prowess, and then the ability to copy a spell if I so choose. Not a bad deal. Kessig Flame Breather. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, so this extends itself into artifacts and enchantments and planeswalkers, deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's just a really good one for 2 mana, enough ass to block a little bit early game, and then but it doesn't have that tap ability. There's just only so many of those, not many. Hermit Druid, that is in there to fill up your graveyard. You tap and a green and reveal cards until you hit a basic. That goes into your hand. The rest goes into the graveyard. You are just filling up your graveyard kind of nice. And so there has to be some sort of balance. You can just hey, I think it's going to be a little tough to be just a fill up your graveyard and go off. There's just not a lot of self mill without black, but Hermit Druid's definitely one. We have Harmonic Prodigy, ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers. That ability triggers an additional time. And so there's a lot of wizards in here and some shamans. So, Galectrode, tap to deal 1 damage to any target. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, untap it. Just kind of doing that same thing. It's damage, it's untapping, it's 3 mana, not a bad deal. We have Enduring Vitality, I believe it is. Adam's Proxy's kind of blocking the words, but I love it. I love it. And if you like these, check it out on You can become a Discord member, become a part of a Patreon. It's only $1 more if you like more proxies, but we give those away to these stuff like this. Adam has over like 450 proxies, and he is my co-host on the Commander Smiths podcast that comes out weekly. Been doing this for almost 8 years, so there's a lot of content that we've done throughout the years. So go check that out. But yep, this is tapping your creatures tap for mana. You got a bunch of cheaper creatures. You also have the things that untap in here, so it kind of lets you kind of go off in that regard. We have electrostatic field. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, 1 damage to each opponent. Just kind of what's happening on theme. Dragon's Rage Channeler. I've been kind of working with this deck a little bit, and this was out for like half of it, and then I was like, oh, whenever I cast something, it just a lesson from the yard. I'm basically just continuing to fill my graveyard, and I should do that. Um, so that's that. Is a must have in the deck, I think. We have Curious Homunculus, taps to add a colorless for instants and sorceries. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are three or more instants and sorceries, transform it. And that is a prowess 3/4. And then instant and sorcery spells cost one less to cast. So it's just one of those reductions that get a big bonus when you start storming off, and you just get a bunch of big creatures, and you don't you kind of know what's going on, but you probably have prowess is going to be able to kind of kill somebody if you can get through with it. So I was thinking this is a cool one. Crackleburr is probably, I normally don't like playing with um infinites, but this probably gets me infinite in the deck, and I'm okay because nobody probably knows what Crackleburr is. But it is an is it tap two untapped red creatures you control. Crackleburr deals 3 damage to target creature or player. And then you can go, is it untap two tapped blue creatures you control, return target creature to its owner's hand. And so essentially there is enough untapping in this and stuff that like creatures that tap for mana. I think there's something, I think it's awkward enough that it's okay to put it in there and just help control what's going on. At least you can activate it, should be able to activate it a bunch of times. So, I'm hoping that it'll fit in here. Caldera Pyramaw, there's a win condition in here, but 3/3 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a 1/1 counter on it, and then a creature deals damage equal to its power to target opponent. Um, And so every time you cast a lesson from the graveyard, it's going to deal, 4, then 5, then 6, then 7 damage to an opponent. And then it's just going to get bigger in itself. So this is a game winner in here. I am super surprised somebody's even on the chat. It is almost 7 o'clock. I guess it's starting to be a little bit earlier or reasonable. But um hello. Remember to give a thumbs up. Anything, was not expecting anything in the chat or anything this time. But Blister Split Gremlin, pay one, tap, and then this deals 1 damage to each opponent. Also here for the whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap Blister Split Gremlin. That's kind of what that's there for. Just a cheap card that can deal a handful of damage, but there to be able to tap for mana and untap when you cast an instant or sorcery. We have Ashling Flame Dancer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to discard a card to draw a card. If it's a second time, you're dealing 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. And then if it's a third one, you add 4 um, red mana. And I'm pretty sure whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, discard a card, then draw a card. If this is the second time, yeah. So I'm pretty sure every time you cast one, you are discarding to draw a card. So it is filling up your graveyard along with that second and third trigger when that's happening, but it's all good stuff. And then you have anger. You discard this card, make sure that all your creatures have haste. Haste is pretty important when you have a lot of activated abilities on a lot of your creatures with the Merfolk looting, and also just bash in for when a creature attacks. So let's go back through and kind of look at some of the weakest ones. I didn't really cut. I like Anger. Ashling's really good. I like the Gremlin, Pyramaw. Crackleburr, I think, is something there. Let's focus. Focus, camera. Come on. I really like the Curious Homunculus, but it is something that it's only 2 mana. I think it's pretty different. I'm pretty happy with that. I think we'll get rid of Baral at this point, but we'll take all right, Dragon's Rage Channeler, we'll keep that. We like our damage stuff, we like our mana stuff, we like the anything that untaps. Let's check out our double triggers. I don't know how many shaman and wizards we have, but let's check that one out. We like Hermit Druid for sure. If we like the electrostatic, we like this. Kitsa, just that draw discard. Let's cut Baral, like we were kind of talking a little bit. We like Looter. We like Null Mage Separate at this point. We like Muse. Seeker of Insight. If there's a draw discard that is the worst, it is this. I think for now we can try and cut it. We have Spider-Man Manifestation. I'm down with keeping that. I like the untapping thing that's going on. The Prowess will double with Harmonic Prodigy. And I like that spell reduction. Therma Alchemist, it's doing everything we want. Thought Courier, Thunderclap Drake. Yep, I like that one. Unctus, yep. Let's pull that apart and look for that double trigger. I'm gonna cut Wart here as well because we have gotten rid of a lot of the Magecraft. There was not a lot there. Um, and then we'll have to reevaluate later on, but I do think without the Magecraft, Wart is cuttable. Otherwise, I was kind of liking the idea, but Zertaw Druid for sure. Let's keep that for the damage and the untapping. All right. Let's look for triggers and then shaman and wizard. So let's check out that one first. Shaman and wizard. So that is not an activate or that is an activated ability, not a triggered. So that's not going to double. Shaman will untap twice with the prodigy in play. Wizard that will double prowess. That's an activated ability. Kitsa prowess is the double trigger. And I guess all of that will trigger with Viren as well. Shaman will double trigger. Same thing with Viren. That weird will double trigger with Viren. Double trigger with Viren. Shaman will double trigger with both of them. Homunculus, Elemental, Dragon, Gremlin. Double trigger with Ashling with both of them. So what are we talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Harmonic Prodigy works with 6 of them, and 2 of them are 2 of them are just prowess. And so that doesn't make me super thrilled. I think Harmonic Prodigy is probably cuttable. I think Viren hits enough. So that'll untap 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, 5-ish. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, technically 11, 12, 13, 14. That's hitting enough. Viren hits enough where I'm pretty happy with that. 4 cuts so far, not terrible. Let's move on to those instants and sorceries, eh? That's a lot of them. Hold on. Let's go. We're doing sorceries. There we go. All right. So wheeling and dealing, that's pretty important. And I'm pretty sure we want to keep all of the wheels. That's just one of the best options to fill up your graveyard here. We'll keep the windfall, wheel of fortune and misfortune. Water bending lesson is a lesson. You can always tell lesson by the denotation up there at the top left. But draw 3 cards, discard a card unless you waterbend 2. Almost always wanna just discard a card, it doesn't matter in this deck. It is 4 mana, so that's a little bit of the problem, but just going into the graveyard, cast 1 or free later on for that lesson. Teachings of the Archaics. Um, God, lessons were, like, legitly bad when they came out in Strixhaven. I think for Avatar, they at least made them they're, like, very basic, which and some of them, but if they cost more, that's fine too. But, like, here, it's if an opponent has more cards in hand than you get to draw 2 cards for 3 mana. That base level is 3 mana, draw 2 cards for a sorcery. And so and then it's draw 3 cards instead if an opponent has at least 4 or more cards in your hand than you do. So this isn't very good. The thing that will help you is that you are drawing and discarding a lot of cards in this. And so you might end up not having a ton of cards until you start rolling. But again, if I have this and I can discard it, I'm discarding it. It's just part of the storm package later on. We have Splendid Reclamation. There is probably enough self mill in here that this becomes a solid card. But 4 mana, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then the next turn, you just go off. You have Shared Roots. It's a lesson. Search your library for a basic land card, put it in play tapped, and shuffle. This is kind of how lessons should have been and is in Avatar. That's the part that I like. It's not overcosted. It's not doing anything like bad. There's nothing that just makes the card bad. Like Teachings of the Archaics can just literally be a dead card in your hand. If you have the most cards in hand, they're like, yeah, you have a dead card. And then you're not going to get rid of it either. So Shared Roots, I like this a lot as a lesson card. Seismic Sense, 1 green lesson. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of land cards you have. You may reveal a creature and or land card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. And so 1 mana. I like how this card scales. It is a lesson, so it's in the deck. And then we have Price of Freedom, another lesson. Destroy target artifact or land an opponent controls. They get to go search for a basic land, put it in play tapped. Then you get to draw a card. Not a bad one, not a good one, but it is a lesson. So there we go. We have Life from the Loam, something that works from the graveyard. It has Dredge 3. Return up to 3 target land cards from your yard to your hand. So it's very much one of those instants and sorceries that can replay over and over again. Um, and it mills well. It feels really good in this deck. Jessica's Will. Rituals are going to be really good in this deck because when you start going off, maybe it's almost too good, like or you don't need it. But if your commander's in play, you look at the top 3 and then you can ritual for each card in target opponent's hand. So you do this early and you ritual and or look at more cards, but really it's ritual because they're exiling. Um, and then after that, when you're doing Iroh later on, you're just kind of going off anyway. So feels pretty good. We have Iroh's Demonstration, which is a lesson, so that's why it's in here. But 1 damage to each creature or 4 damage to target creature. A little bit of removal there. You have Introduction to Prophecy lesson. Scry 2, draw a card for 3 mana. Colorless. Another colorless Introduction to Annihilation, which is exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. Also a lesson. We have Immolating Gyre. 6 mana sorcery. It deals 6 or X damage to each creature and planeswalker you don't control, where X is the number of instant and sorcerer cards in your graveyard. You want to fill your graveyard up. So this should kind of halfway board wipe people. That's the goal at least. And then you have Ignite Memories, one of those storm cards, but target player reveals a card at random from his or her hand. Ignite Memories deals damage equal to that player, equal to the card's converted mana cost. Do it for each card that you've cast before the spell. So you storm off, you cast all your lessons for free, and then you cast Ignite Memories and get, you know, 8, 10 triggers out of it and hopefully kill somebody. But that's the great thing. You don't know. You don't know. Fiery Encore, another storm card, but discard a card to draw a card, and then the discarded card deals damage to a creature or planeswalker. So a fun little wrath card that works really well within the theme of what's going on. Faithless Looting and let's get Careful Study. They are there to draw 2, discard 2 for really cheap sorcery. We have Mizzix's Mastery. Great card whenever you're trying to do a storm deck. Like if Iroh just can't stay on the board, you just cast Mizzix's Mastery and likely just win the game anyway. So it's a great workaround for the deck. We have another lesson with True Ancestry, but return target permanent from the yard to your hand and create a clue token. Just a good way to do it. Also works well because it is, the partial mill part of the deck. We have Containment Breach as a lesson, destroy target artifact, create a 1/1 pest token. And then you have Boomerang Basics right now. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control that permanent, draw a card. I don't have much um, non-land permanent, so you could reset something like I don't even know, but I don't have much ETB, so I don't know how much it really matters. More than likely, it's sorcery speed, bounce an opponent's creature, which isn't amazing, but again, it's a lesson. Let's go through that real quick. I want to keep in kind of as many lessons and kind of as many basic instant or sorceries in here, and maybe we'll um be happy with it. Just the only thing that I'm thinking is right now I have 4 game changers and I'd like to get down to 3 so I can be a bracket 3 deck. It's kind of where I like to be. Um and so that goes Seedborn Muse, we got Jessica's Will, I have a counter spell. There's one more. But Jessica's Will might be something that I do just because it's not a draw discard. I do like it as a ritual, but I'm kind of leaning away from the rituals. It's a little bit of why I don't really need them, other than it's trying to speed me up, but I'd rather take the time, do some self mill, load up the graveyard. Um, so let's cut Jessica's Will. Let's get down, and then I don't have to worry about the brackets anymore. Light from the Loam still feels good. Lesson, 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 lesson. Splendid Reclamation. Do I care about that? We like water bending and we like the wheels. Let's. I think I have the reduction. I think we're literally casting free spells. Um, let's cut that as well. It's kind of like a little weird ritual in that regard, but I think we can cut that. All right, let's look at some instants. Got a bunch of those as well. We have Zuko's Exile. It's exile target artifact or creature enchantment, and they get a clue token. That is a lesson. That is lesson removal, 5 mana colorless. Come on. Let's focus. And you know what? I think for now, I think we'll keep that. It's a lesson. We're gonna cut our rituals. So Seething Song and Pyretic Ritual, they're just gonna get cut. I think I'm working with the cost reductions. We'll go with that. Origins of Metal Bending. It is protection and removal on artifacts and enchantments. It is a lesson. Actually, this is a pretty solid card. So being a lesson, I'm pretty happy with that. Octopus Form. Target creature you control gets +1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. There's a lot of stuff going on with that cheap card. It's a lesson. It's perfect. I do like it. We have Lost Days, 5 mana instant lesson. The owner of target creature or enchantment puts it on into the library second from the top, and you create a clue token. This is one of those cards that a lot of these 5 mana removal spells that are only hitting one thing, that you discard those things. You discard them, and then you just use them as storm removal later on. Um, which makes me feel like nah, no, no. Heroic Intervention for that protection, Flusterstorm for that protection. We have Firebending Lesson, which is just 2 damage. You can kick it for bigger, but it's a lesson, and it's only hitting a creature. Fierce Guardianship, there's that counterspell that's a game changer. I like the idea of it as just great protection for Iroh. So Iroh comes into play, somebody wants to target it, you Fierce Guardianship, they want to target again, you can flashback it for free since it's in play. Um, I feel like it's a great protection spell in this deck. And maybe it's a don't lose the game thing either, but just kind of when you're going off. Elemental Teachings, being able to go get lands, put them into play, into the graveyard, it's all going to work. It's 5 mana lesson. Desperate Ritual, we'll get rid of the rituals as we talked about. Deflecting Swat, another great protection spell, I think, with Iroh. A little less flexible, but that's why it's not a game changer. Cycle of Renewal, another go get lands into play as a lesson. It's Harrow. There we go. We have Combustion Technique, another lesson. Deals damage equal to 2 plus the number of lesson cards in your yard to target creature, exiles if dies. So just you want a high number of lessons to make sure that is what's going on. Accumulated Wisdom. There we go. There we go. Uh Yeah, it is a lesson. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order, and then put each of those cards into your hand instead if there are 3 or more lesson cards in the graveyard. So you can basically draw 3 for 2 mana if you have late enough in the game. So it's pretty sweet. And then Abandon Attachments lesson. You may discard a card to draw 2 cards. I like those at this point. We did get rid of at least 3 rituals. 1, 2, 3. That's what we kind of attacked there. We do want to keep the lesson count high. And that's going to be the hardest thing is like figuring out how many lessons you need, how many you want to keep. Um, and the more basic ones that you can have that take over, just like the draws, like the simple spells, the glue cards that you need, the better it'll be for you. Deflection SWAT, I'm happy with. Teachings, removal, protection. And at this point, I'm happy with that bit. Let's see here. Get another drink. We have artifacts and enchantments left still. But Thousand Year Elixir. Come on, focus. Thank you. This camera is shitty. I hate technology. Thousand Year Elixir, giving the activated abilities of creatures haste, and you can untap target creature. Not a bad deal. We have Anger, we have Lightning Greaves, as you can see. I'll kind of set that aside. I should go through, but Soul Ring, just a Paradise Mantle. Put this in something that untaps, and then you're just able to basically keep on casting stuff. That's not a bad deal. We have Mesmeric Orb. So whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller puts the top card of his or her library into their graveyard. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that gets you self mill. And then also there were dreams of turning this into a mill deck when you're casting stuff, and you'll still see this and a couple one other card maybe still, but it could be fun. Lightning Greaves for that haste, but also the protection's nice. Aetherflux Reservoir. You're casting a bunch of spells right in a row. The life gain is what is enticing for me, but also you get over 50. and you just zap somebody. And I do like that. That's kind of what the deck wants to do. So I feel like I'm okay with this. Not a lot of artifacts at this point. If it's going to be anything, it's thousand or Aetherflux Reservoir or Elixir. But we'll keep the reservoir right now. Let's go back and look at the creatures and see how much the elixir would really help out. How many creatures there? Uh Zephyr Scribe probably takes a little bit of time anyway, but Zertaw Druid is 1, Catapult is 2, Courier's 3, Alchemist 4, Spider 5, Merfolk Looter 6, 7 with Kitsa, 8, Hermit Druid, Galectro is 9, mana, adding all that, I'd say 10, 11 with Crackleburr, 12 with Gremlin. That's up there. I'm not disappointed in that. I think we can it's relatively there. Speed everything up. And then our last bit, enchantments, Thousand Year Storm. If you're storming, might as well storm. You're gonna get a lot of lessons in there. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant or sorcery spell you've cast before at this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. Feels great in this deck. I think I think that's happening. Sorcerer class comes into play, draw 2, discard 2, level it up, and then your creatures can tap for a red or a blue for instant and sorcery cards. So just the another ability for your creatures to tap for lands or mana. Um, and so I like it in that regard. Also, the draw discard. And then also it helps out with like damage when you're storming off if you get up there. So normally I don't care about the level 3, but it's relevant. So Song of Freyalise, having your creatures tap for mana for the first 2 chapters, and then you put in a 1/1 counter on everything. It doesn't really matter. It's there for the mana and being cheap. Ophidian Eye, you have a lot of stuff that's going to deal 1 damage to each creature, and so whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Basically, you're dealing 1 damage to everybody, so you draw 3 cards, and I felt like I liked that effect. Not really on theme, but it just felt good, so we'll go with it. But Ophidian Eye, we have Snake Umbra doing the same thing. Um, we have Keen Sense as well, just at 1 mana, so we'll put that in, and then we also have Curiosity. So whenever it deals damage, you draw a card. We just have those 4. I feel like 1 meets all of them, and I like it. Intruder Alarm, enchantment. Creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps, but whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. Um, this card can really go crazy. It's gonna, I took out a token theme, which would have really made this card move. Um, but I think I'm still happy with it in there. It doesn't need to be crazy. This is a combo card if you want it to be. But I just like the idea of being able to untap the Merfolk Looter type cards and mill. You're essentially choice milling as you're moving along. Um, and so that's kind of what it's in there for. So whenever an opponent casts or put a creature into play, you're untapping a lot of stuff. That's the goal there. Glacier Wood Siege is perfect for this deck. When it comes into play, choose one or the other. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, target player mills 4 cards. So this is one of those where it's like, ooh, I can mill somebody out this way. But when it comes into play, you kind of self mill when you're setting everything up. You mill your 4, and then when Iroh comes into play, you start casting stuff for free. You can either, you know, fill your graveyard up and keep going, and or start trying to mill somebody out. Especially if you have a mesmeric orb out. Um, I think that's the deal. And also, if it just doesn't matter, and you like your lands coming back from the graveyard, that works. But I like Life from the Loam in that regard. So that's I think the goal. We have Cryptic Ritual or yeah, it's right. Creatures tap for mana. That's the way to be. Artist talent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you discard a card to draw a card. So as you're going off, you're filling up the graveyard a bit more. If you level to it, non-creature spells cost one less. So with Iroh, lessons are free in the yard. And then if you level 3 this, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent, add 2 more instead. Again, perfect for the deck. All of them work great. We have Aria of Flame. When it ETBs, each opponent gains 10 life. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a verse counter on Aria of Flame. Then it deals damage equal to the number of verse counters on it to target player or planeswalker. Um, so yeah, you're when you're storming off, you that 10 damage might not be a lot, or that 10 life that you give everybody. The question ends up being like, is it worth it? That 10 is a lot because it's not just one player. It is, you're giving away 30 life to your opponents essentially. And so I'm kind of okay with keeping it. We got the dragon, we have Aetherflux Reservoir, we have a lot of little one damage to everybody's. Target player or planeswalker. Yeah, yeah. It just feels like another way to ding people. I'm all right with that. Well, and then we have Shadow of the Goblin. Last one. At the beginning of your first step, discard a card to draw a card, and whenever you cast from the yard, one damage each opponent. So perfect card, fills up your graveyard a little bit, doing a bunch of damage when you cast and stuff. Works pretty well. So let's try and get rid of an enchantment, I guess. I like Shadow of the Goblin. Aria Flame, Talent, right? Siege, Alarm. I like Curiosities, Song of Freyalise. This was the 4 mana one, but I just cut it. It's too expensive. Sorcerer class and Storm. Enchantments are definitely stuff that we can cut. 2, 3. I think we're gonna wanna look at how many draw spells we have. I think we have a lot, but a lot of them is discarding too. Intruder Alarm, yep. Siege is something that'll bump. So Aria of Flame, we'll have to take a look at our burn package. Okay. Let's see here. So that go around, we cut 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The cats are kind of going crazy. Ooh. Oh, let me go close the door officially. I decided to feed him real quick. It's about time. All right. So we're going to put everything into an order of what they're doing in the deck. And hopefully we can figure out if we have enough. There we go. Let's damage. Let's get rid of that. We have, there's a little bit of both. Mana. This is a self-mill card. Let's put that. Do we got one more there? All right. Untapping. Draw. Mana. This is storming. So technically that, I guess. Haste for that. Well, damage. Protection. Self-mill. Manas. Drawing. Removal. Protection. That is removal. A little bit of both, but wheeling, drawing, removals. Part of the storm part. I guess there was a bit more graveyard stuff going on, but Iroh just kind of does his thing. Your removal. Got these big old sleeves on my robe. Damage, removal, manas, removal. Just looking. I'll draw this card. Mana, damage. It's kind of a whatever. Tapping, removal, damage. That is self-mill. Yeah, I guess. Mana, damage, self-mill. And then that is self-mill and hasty. All right. I feel like my camera's a little tight. Actually, normally we fit in a lot of this. All right. So let's look at self-mill real quick. Kind of like when we're going off, kind of works. Artist Talent, I think, is perfect for the deck. That cost reduction is great. Ashling, also doing the same thing. Great with the Magecraft. Got to discard and draw a bunch of cards. Dragon's Rage Channeler is doing his thing. Hermit Druid for sure. I like the Siege. I really like the idea of filling up your yard and then just start going off on somebody else. Mesmeric Orb. There's a proxy. I probably took it from the internet or something. I don't like that it could probably kill me when I start intrudering alarm and just I do a lot of untapping with the Kitsa and the damagers. Maybe that's one that we cut. And then if we need more mill, feel like we need more mill, then it's time to, put it back in because it's one of the better self-mill cards. But I think I'm happy with the draw discard package and stuff like that. Two random ones. Viren, I think, is still a legitimate card, and Mastery still is great in there too. Let's look at our untappers. Not a lot. I like Seedborn Muse. I like Alarm. And Elixir being my third haste enabler, I think is pretty solid. Again, this is a 3/3. I'd much rather have Anger. I'd much rather have Lightning Greaves. But I like Thousand Year Elixir. It has that little bit of untapped target creature. True Alarm and Seedborn Muse are top notch. So pretty happy with that. Just a little bit untapped. There's not a lot there. Minimo might be in there as the land. Let's see here. Yeah, law. Okay. We have damage with Gremlin. Let's push that off to the side at this point. That is more like that. So field, you're unique. Surround damage, surround damage, surround damage. You are a storm card. Damage. Those are kind of like the win. That's just going to get me a lot of an effect, which I really like. Storming will storm. I do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. that are gonna deal damage to everybody, and also I have that Zertod Druid as well, 6. Um, I think we stick with that. I like the untappers, the 3 of them, and then these 2 are probably my favorite after the facts. So I'm happy with those. With the damage, Galectrode untapping is the key, and I really like that. Liked it for a long time. Ignite Memories seems like a really fun card. Thousand Year Storm seems like it can do a lot of good. And then we're looking at just ending games. So we are saying Aetherflux Reservoir. I like the Pyramaw. It's right there. And Aria Flame, like the question ends up being like, is it worth it? Because you gotta be able to end the game. Giving 30 life out too early might, there's enough time where it's like, where's everybody life? And some groups go after the person with the least amount of life to get them out, and others try and keep it kind of round and fair and stuff like that. So it probably depends on where you're at. I get a little picked on, but for the most part, everybody's making sure that we're all kind of in the game. Um, hmm, let's keep it for now. Let's look at our protection. We have anger, and really, let's talk about lightning greaves is there. It's a little bit of graveyard with true ancestry. Doesn't really matter, especially now that Mesmeric Orb is gone. Like, the random mill is what was gonna get me. We have Life from the Loam as well. True Ancestry might be that can be a cut. That can be a cut. Alright. We like the lesson. We like the lesson. We like the best. We have these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's enough. We got rid of that one. Pretty happy with that. We don't want to change that too much. Let's look at removal here. Crackleburr, I think that's interesting enough that I want to stick around with it. It's just kind of wild doing stuff. There we go. Null-Made Shepherd, also just like tapping, discarding, stuff like that. We have a lesson. Maybe we try and separate that a little bit. Non-land permanent. Let's say that is a non-land permanent. Non-land permanent. Mostly it's going to be a creature, sometimes enchantment, creature, 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 and creature. All right. And then might have target creature chats over hand, 3 damage to creature player. So we can put that in